Alright, healers, we need to talk because, let's be honest, half of you out there aren't real healers. You're just health dispensers with a victim complex. I'm not saying healing's the easiest role, I'm not saying healing's the hardest role, but healers cannot be blameless. Why are we not allowed to criticize healers without hordes of players coming to their defense? It's not like they never make mistakes. As a flex player, but mainly tank, I make mistakes all the time. And you know what I do? I own up to them, I apologize to the team, and I file the new information away so I can try to not make that mistake again. DPS, they get blamed for being behind a wall all the time. Tanks get blamed because they pushed up too much or they don't push up enough. But for some reason, once you start criticizing a healer, everyone hates you more than the DPS jet player. But seriously, healers, when was the last time you actually looked at your own gameplay and said, wait, maybe I'm the problem? We've noticed a serious amount of healers full on gaslighting themselves and the team in order to cover up their mistakes, saying that they did not have their ult up before when they died or when the team died before a team fight, or that they were indeed healing someone who was begging for healing, and then you check the replay after the game and you see them doing long range left clicks on Rocket. This isn't just a roast though, because on this channel, one of us is a tank main, one of us is a DPS main, and one of us is a heal main. This literally is a wake up call, because if you actually want to climb and stop feeling like a glorified medkit, you need to learn how to actually play support and not just heal. I shouldn't be able to autofill healer and win most of my games. The people on this channel, the highest ranks we've achieved in various games is stuff like Masters in League of Legends, GM Overwatch, Challenger in TFT, and we all got to Celestial last season and GM this season so far, which is around top 1%. Me personally, this is actually the first time I've ever played a shooting game in the past 15 years, so I thought that was pretty cool on my end. But pretty much I'm saying this to say that we're not just talking out of our butts here. We've been playing these competitive team-based games for like over 15 years now, and we've noticed that the new player base in Marvel Rivals just are not used to a lot of these different mechanics and team dynamics. Look, we're not saying that playing support is not easy. If I had to pick one role that I would choose to not be the worst player on my team, it would actually be support. Because if both your healers suck, you just auto lose the game. But if they're both decent, everything becomes a lot more winnable. As a support, you have to juggle positioning, cooldowns, awareness, and while you're doing this, everyone on your team expects you to babysit their bad decisions, and you're also getting dove by 3 melee DPS. But here's the catch. Just healing is not enough. Tunneling healing on the tank just because they're the front line isn't always going to be optimal, but I see a lot of healers just never turn their cameras around, and you could have easily shot 1 or 2 healing bullets or whatever you want to call them depending on who you play at one random DPS player on your team who's trying to deal with a flanker alone or dealing with a 1v1. Let's not forget, you have another healer on your team as well, and if they're getting dove and you don't turn your camera around, they're just going to die to whoever's attacking them. Sometimes it's not your teammates being out of position, it's you not tracking the fight correctly. One example I see very often is when a tank pushes up, but the healers are too afraid to follow, and then the tank dies and people think that the tank's overextended. But in a lot of cases, you have to ask yourself, what is the tank's job? It's to take space and make space, right? What are you supposed to do with that extra space? You're supposed to occupy it yourself as a healer. So sometimes when your tanks push up and they cleared the path completely, you have to follow them so that you can heal them at better angles. You can't just be bouncing off orbs with Rocket or auto-aiming with Cloak and Dagger all the time. Healing is really just about value, not just numbers. Value and numbers are a bit different. If you're dumping your kit into the person taking the most damage instead of the one making the biggest impact, you're just reacting, not thinking, and creating your own game plan. It's like how if you buy a water bottle at Costco, you can probably get them in bulk for pretty cheap, right? That's pretty good value for whatever money you're spending on it. But if you buy a water bottle at the airport or a movie theater, you're gonna be paying out of your butt. That's not good value, right? Even though it's the same water. Next, let's talk about dealing with dive. How many of you blow your escape cooldown at the first sign of danger, then complain about dying 10 seconds later? How many of you pop your ult just to save one person in a lost fight and then have nothing when it actually matters? Alternatively, how many of you have popped ult too late so that a teammate died before your defensive ult even happened when you could have prevented it? So now you've lost the fight before it even started and you burned your most important ability. You say your team has no awareness, no aim, no positioning, but where's yours? You're healing the tanks, but not the storm carrying the team? Or maybe your fellow healer who just needs 1 tick of healing to survive Spider-Man's combo. If you actually want to carry as a support and have impact on your games, and not just play the matchmaking lotto every time you queue up, you need to learn about tempo. You need to read fights before they happen, you need to be able to adapt to the fight as it unfolds, and most of all, You need to stop playing the martyr and start playing the game. Here's the truth, the best support players don't just respond to what's happening, they shape the fight. They know when to hold their ground and when to reposition. They don't just follow the team, they lead them without anyone even realizing it. As the fight develops, you need to constantly be re-evaluating every aspect of where you need to be standing. Who needs priority healing first? Whose ults are coming up on both your team and the enemy team? Can you escape to high ground, and will that help you gain a better vantage point, or will it leave you open to being two-tapped by Hela? Every second of the fight changes all of these decisions, and you need to become really good at this in order to elevate your game to the next level. Remember, in Marvel Rivals, they're called strategists, not healers. Now let's break this down. There are 3 kinds of support mains. Let's start off with the first one, which are the stat chasers. These are the types of people who flex their healing numbers after being blamed for no heals, thinking that it means something. You top the charts, sure, but your team still loses every fight. Does that actually count as being a good player? Not necessarily. Why? Because raw healing doesn't win fights, impactful healing does. If your Cloak and Dagger is holding left click, throws a right click and an E, then ults when someone on the enemy team ults, you're not a playmaker, you're a predictable NPC that the opponents can play around. What can you do instead? Well, you could change forms to use some of her offensive abilities, you could be more mindful of who you heal, not just the main tank, and depending on the matchup, maybe you want to be away from your other healer or right next to them. But impactful healing means a lot more than just having high heal numbers, because if you have a 700 health tank who's maybe at 500, you need to heal him 200 to get him topped off to full. But if you have a DPS who's missing 200 life, they literally cannot be in line of sight of anyone, if not they will just risk dying. So that 200 health on them means a ton more than whatever the tank is getting. Not to mention, tanks often have a lot of tools to protect themselves in the meantime. Next we have this passive spectators. These are the I'm just doing my job type. You stay alive all game but never actually do anything. You never tempo push, you never take space, you never call a rotation. You're technically playing support, but you're offering none. As a strategist player, you pretty much see the whole map. Almost everyone's in front of you on both teams, so you can kind of dictate to your team who goes where, what parts of the map need attention, and who on your team is about to make a play. You see all of this and much, much more, but if you're not actually using any of this information that you get, you're pretty much just wasting a huge part of your kit. It's not even part of your champion kit, it's part of your role kit, because you're often in the back, where again, you can see literally everything. I feel like too many people are tunnel visioned on their screen. They only see a small box next to their crosshair, and they don't actually think about what's going on the rest of their screen. I don't even know why people buy expensive monitors, because they really only use 10% of it. But let's move on into the third type of strategist player, which are the enablers. And this is what you should aim to be. These are the type of strategists that track enemy cooldowns. You know which teammate's about to pop off and make sure they can. Maybe you see your Punisher is about to ult, so you save some of your healing cooldowns to keep him up and pocket him. You stagger healing when it's safe, burst heal when it's needed, and you pretty much never waste a single ability because of that. Next, you're probably going to be peeling when it matters and instigate when the window opens up. A lot of healers I see, they hold down their healing ability, but they never actually go on the offensive even if their whole team is full life. Instead, enablers would often take a lot of these opportunities to put more pressure on the other team. Lastly, enablers don't just help their team survive, they help them to win. Because again, that's what the role's about. It's not about being a heal bot, even if you're a no damage rocket. The goal is to help your team win, not to get the highest healing numbers. So do you see the difference? Some strategists are number generators, others are NPCs, and a special few are a team's win condition. If you're playing healer just to feel safe from blame, then okay, go ahead, like stay in gold or whatever medal rank you're in. But if you actually want to climb, win more, and make people beg for you in their lobbies, then start owning your impact. And stop blaming your team for every loss, thinking that you tried your hardest because you held down your heal ability all game and there was someone to heal at all times. That's not enough. Ask any of your friends who play DPS or tank, they can feel a huge difference in their play when they have a good healer and a bad healer. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect, right? Like, no one's perfect. But being a good support isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up with the intention to win the game, tracking every cooldown, knowing how to reposition in every situation, and pretty much just making good in-game decisions, such as when to ult and what your heal priority is. And all of this adds up to more than just simply trying to keep your team alive. We're talking about building momentum here, flipping fights. You're turning chaos into control. So stop hiding behind healing stats. It's like the Squirrel Girl or Human Torch players who brag about being top damage in the game even though they have no final hits. Stop blaming bad DPS, useless tanks, or saying you have no peel. Look at your own gameplay and be honest. I know it's hard when you're being dove. Again, I play healer too. We have a heal main on the channel as well, but we've all been in those games where it's dive comp versus dive comp, and the strategists that can take care of themselves just single-handedly can win a lot of those games because their team's divers are going to punish all the heal bots on the enemy team, while maybe you instead live 5 to 10 seconds longer and allow your team to win the fight. So seriously, you have to look at your own gameplay and be honest, because the moment you stop playing the victim and start playing with purpose, that's when you just stop being a healer and start being a difference maker or a strategist. So yeah, healers, we needed to talk. I beg of you to apply some of the stuff that you've heard in this video. We do hope you enjoyed this as well. It's not like a roast video, like no one's saying support sucks. I don't know where people get this idea from. Every role in Marvel Rivals is super important. Like how many 5v6s have you won? Like pretty much none, right? But we felt really compelled to make this video because, I don't know, between season 1 and season 2, it feels like the healer quality has dropped so much and has become so unbearable at times. So hopefully this reaches a few players and kind of changes that, maybe slowly over time. But that's going to be it from us today. Hope to see you all next time.